Okay. There we go. Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear you. I I can't hear you, Matt. Let me see what might be wrong. Video, audio. I can see you. Let's see where's the. I don't see a microphone. Let me check my audio. There's a little click thing. I'll see if I. It's darn. Okay. Nope. Still can't. Can you see me at least? There we go. There. Okay. Select a microphone. Internal microphone is selected. That's what I have. Select a speaker. Same as system speakers, probably. Let me try. Let me try the same as system speakers. There we go. Now can you hear? Now talk. No, no audio yet. Well, gosh darn it. Select a speaker. I can see the same as system speakers, connection ISST audio. You can hear me at least, so microphones. Test speaker and micro. Oh, wait a minute. Switch to phone audio. No, leave computer audio. I should be on computer. Let me check audio settings. Audio settings. There we go. Test speaker. Let me test the speaker. I should be on same as speaker. There. Now I can hear. Sample music is playing. I'll put volumes up. Okay, so that's working. Same as system speakers. I don't know. Let me try the same as. Let me switch from to speakers connection ISST audio. Let's darn it. These buttons are so difficult for me to. My sliding computer here is old. There we go. There. Now let's see if that speaker works. Whoop. Let me get up there and test speaker. Okay, I'm hearing music playing, so that's good. Output volume is maximum. Facial audio here. Incoming call ringtones. No. You can hear me though, right? Okay, I can't hear you at all. I see your head moving. I've only got two choices on speakers. Connection ISST audio. That's what I'm on now. And same as system speakers. I don't know which one. Um, let me see. Let me go down. There we go. Okay, audio profile, live performance audio. That's off. Here we go. Let me try performance audio. There, now try talking. Maybe that'll do it. Automatically sync headset. I don't have a headset. On live performance audio. Okay. I've got the live performance on. That was off. I don't know. Uh-oh. Oh, join meeting. Let me try joining from browser. Okay, joining meeting. Oh, shit. Let's see if that works. I don't know if you can hear me. Encounters, USA Zoom meeting. Host has joined. We'd let them know you're here. I don't. Okay. No. Okay. Let me. Okay. That's got the camera off. Okay. That camera won't go on. Let me go back and join from workplace browser. Okay. Oh, there. Sorry, I pressed it. You just got real big. Uh, Well, Matt, frustrating when it comes to audio. Okay, now my audio's unmuted.
Testing, testing.
There. Okay. See, I told you I
You,
couldn't do anything. I can hear you and see you.
okay, I wonder. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Okie doke. Oh, I can't hear you now. I I lost the vocal. I can see you. There we go. Still can't hear you. No, can't hear you. Audio, let me try it again. No, okay, I'm not. Testing, testing, testing. Well, we were good for a second.
Testing,
There.
testing.
Gotcha.
Okay, well, I can't.
You can't see me?
Can you hear? How is that volume? It's off my iPhone.
Oh, it's off your. I can hear you good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's good enough for us
boy,
to work.
hold on just a second.
Sure.
I need to bring this closer to me, but I can't bring it too close.
I understand. I had a tornado go through for one of my podcasts, and I had to use my phone, and it was tricky.
Well, the problem is I always use this thing, but I haven't had it hooked up for a long time. So luckily, the iPhone seems to be working. All right. So Ed, let me tell you, first of
Yeah.
all, welcome to Encounters USA. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Are we starting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Let
okay.
me
There
just
we go.
wait. No. Hold on.
Yeah.
That's a good point. With all of this, did you invite somebody?
No, I think I probably hit an allow button when I was trying to hook up with you, but no, I haven't invited. Oh, or I might have. I have two. I have an in-browser hookup and then a workplace
Oh,
hookup.
okay. All right. So I need to start the recording actually. How about that?
That's fine with me. We'll just edit it now. Is this live? Any part of it or?
Recording in progress.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, it's also live on YouTube right now. So what I'm going to do is this will be the live video,
Okay.
and then I will edit this, and you have a plethora of material that I'm going to
Cool.
put in as it's appropriate. So,
Great.
all right,
That's great.
so
That's why I
let me
sent it
see.
all. I knew you'd do something great.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. So I need to make some adjustments here.
Alrighty.
I can barely hear you. And I
Oh, you
wonder,
okay? Well, I can move closer to my
well,
microphone.
and since I got you here and you have a nice temperament, I'm going to try an experiment.
Sure. Yeah, I've got the afternoon. It's raining here. I got 3 yards to mow, but that won't be today.
I just want to see if my earpods,
Oh,
if I can
okay.
hear from my earpods.
Okay, well, I'll keep talking and see if we get some test material in here. So this is a voice level check right now.
No.
And nope, you can't hear me, huh? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness gracious.
Okay, but
Well,
anyway, all right. So thank you for trying that. I've seen people talking with earpods on, or these AirPods, and so I go, oh, I wonder how that works. But
yeah, I've never tried them either. I didn't even know what they were till recently. I asked a kid in the store. The
oh,
kid was working and wearing them, and I thought, what are those things? He says, you don't know? And I laughed and said, yeah, I'm an old recluse, buddy.
yeah. Well, I'm fascinated by them because there's a lot of music that they have out now that I find completely disagreeable, and
Uh-huh.
it's nice to be able to shut that out. All right, Ed. Well, let's not get into music here. You're here to talk about your UFO stuff, and let's just kind of structure this because you've got so many things to talk about. So, are we going to be talking about, are we talking Gordo Cooper's things, or are we going
Well,
to be talking about the
what
photos?
length of a presentation you want? I could literally talk for 4 hours on all the documents of each of my 3 books. So structuring it's a good idea. I'm thinking generally this broadcast you would like to have about an hour. I would think I would do an introduction on who I am, how I came across the material, what I determined in the various books, and then finish up with that Cooper document portion, which is the final book. And the final book is where all the information finally comes together. That would be
Yeah.
a standard way that I try and present it. Like I said,
Now,
there's just
before
too much.
before we start, Ed, can you just scooch back a little bit
Yeah,
so we can see your handsome face and your cowboy hat and all that?
cool.
Otherwise, you're just a sombrero.
Okay, there we go. How
Yeah,
is that?
that's perfect.
Good. And you can still hear me.
Yeah, we just want to be kind to the ladies on YouTube that are going to be watching this and going, "Oh, I wish I could see that guy better." So,
Excellent.
so all right, Ed. Well, so we're gonna kind of structure this thing. The first thing that I want to explain to everybody is that Ed has a lot of material here that deals with the first missions to get into space. And the issue that from that time until today is, well, if NASA's in space, where's all the UFO pictures, right?
That's it.
So that's the fundamental question that Ed is going to answer now and probably through the however many podcasts he does with us and whatever projects we decide to take on.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental issue here is who's hiding the stuff that NASA's running across. So with that introduction, Ed, I'm just going to pass it on over to you and let you start.
Well, that's great, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity to be on your show. I love what you do. I really have enjoyed experimenting with your websites. Uh, Basically, we start off with just a brief description of who I am. My name's Ed Wilson, okay, and I don't come from your normal UFO background. I am originally a rare book and document dealer. Now, I spent the past 25 years dealing in rare books and documents, and I don't mean selling them on eBay. I have a real vast historical knowledge, and as a historian, there's very little a person can do to make money. Okay, you can either teach history or you can do what I do, which is treasure hunting. And by treasure hunting, I mean with the obscure ephemera that I find so interesting. Most people don't have time for that in their lives, but I've been fascinated from the get-go. I'll read an encyclopedia strictly for pleasure. So I have that particular bent that made me a good rare book and document dealer. To do that, I have to search auctions and I look for rare books and documents that nobody recognizes them as such. But to me, it stands out and jumps out, and my God, that's got a signature of John Adams, or holy cow, look at that, that's Albert Einstein's first edition. These are the kind of things that I look for, and I don't sell them on eBay. I sell them in the major auction houses all across the world. So I'm not into working. eBay is a wonderful thing. I like to buy things on eBay, but I don't like the work involved in selling them. So I will buy one item at an auction, and I may only find one auction a week that is worth me going and trying to target a purchase at. But in order to do it at a major auction house, I have to be able to verify that what I've bought and that other people have not recognized is authentic. So my skill as a historian was channeled into authentication, which means heavy research. So that's where I come from. I'm not a UFO guy. But consequently, what happened in 3 years ago, and this has been a 3-year investigation, 3 years ago I went and discovered an auction in the nearby Canton, Ohio, in Akron, where the original, what was it called? NACA, not NASA, but the predecessor to NACA, was located at Lewis Army Airfield back in 1943. They were doing research there for the airplanes that were flying in World War II. And a young college graduate named Scott H. Simpkinson, graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering and started there at the Lewis Airfield Research Center in 1943. Now, he started out doing research, and it was destructive testing on propellers, and that's where he worked. And then we'll just shoot fast forward up until 1958. In 1958, well, basically, here's a little bit of research background for you. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the R7, and what the significance of that is, it was the first intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, we were used to, in the United States, dealing with the Soviet Union with an H-bomb. That was something that, although we regretted them having it, we felt comfortable and had come to a nice understanding between us. And that was because we had radar stations all across the world that would give us warning that they were sending perhaps a hydrogen bomb attack through their huge intercontinental bombers, which I think they called them the Buffalo, and I don't remember the exact model number, but it was a propeller-driven craft, and the immense distances from the Soviet Union to the United States, or even the closer distances to Europe, was hours of flight time. It would take hours of flight time for the Soviet Union to attack if they were going to start a nuclear attack. We were used to that. But when they launched the R7, first intercontinental ballistic missile, everybody in the United States pooped their pants, and rightfully so, because what that meant was that the time for perhaps sending attack aircraft, or perhaps contacting Moscow and trying to end the nuclear war before it started, that time had been reduced from hours to minutes. And all of a sudden, a nuclear attack could occur in minutes, and we had no way to do anything about it. So that caused a panic in the United States, and rightfully so, like I said. The military immediately instigated the Space Task Group. The Space Task Group was formed from elements at Langley and from out in JPL and from Lewis Field in here in Ohio, where I attended the auction. And Scott Simpkinson was the leader of the Space Task Group. And you have a beautiful, beautiful picture that I sent you, and that's it from the rear of the book. What you're looking at right there, that is the 1958, that's the actual photograph, but it's from a newspaper article on the Space Task Group, and you see Scott Simpkinson in the very center in what looks like an old 1940s aircraft hangar, and I think that's what it is. And there's one single young lady, and she's nestled slightly in his arms, and she was his lifetime partner that they never married. Her name is Emily Ertl, and the auction I went to was under the listing of Emily Ertl. Well, when I went to that auction, I found an immense, valuable store of documents. And it wasn't because it was Emily Ertl. Although in the book you can see for yourself, right in the book you'll see an article from the national newspaper that states specifically with a nice picture of Emily that she was the very first female employee from NASA. And that Space Task Group, that Scott Simpkinson was the lead engineer that went down to Cape Canaveral, built the blockhouses, built all the control mechanisms, and basically was the mission control chief engineer from before the Mercury mission all the way till his death in 1996. So that's what I did, and that's what led me into this investigation. I bought 31 black 3-ring binders that were put together by Emily that go all the way back to 1957. There were a grand total of 568 9x11 original NASA photographs. And by the way, when you want to see one of these photographs, there's 150 of them in my first book. And they are the very earliest from the guy who was the lead engineer for NASA in Cape Canaveral. He built those spaceships. he built those control rooms. And Emily Ertl was the first female employee there because she was his love throughout his life. In 43, when he got out of college, he married, and he had a daughter. And unfortunately, the daughter was somewhat disabled, as I understand it. I never followed up on it, although you can probably find it if anyone who wants to track this information down. But consequently, when NACA sent him down to lead the engineering group in Cape Canaveral, his wife did not want to go with him. And Emily Ertl, who is the collection who you see right there in the very earliest photograph, Emily Ertl joined NACA in 1947 when she graduated from secretarial school. So she started up in NACA just as he did, and she was the first female employee to go down there. Oh my goodness gracious, there was nothing there but swamps. There's stories when you read the books about the history of NASA. They talk about the engineers down there with snakes crawling up across their thresholds every morning. It was not a pleasant experience. So I can understand why perhaps his wife was reticent to go down and take their disabled daughter with them. Consequently, he never married Emily, but you can even see there's a copy of the New York Times article in 1996 when he died that shows that she was there with him, but they list her as his longtime friend and companion. So back in those days, people were not as free to speak about relationships as they are now. Basically, he was a Catholic also, and I'm not a Catholic, but as I understand it, if you got a divorce in those days, you were not allowed to partake of communion with the rest of your community. You could be forgiven for being an adulterer, but you were not allowed to get a divorce. So whether that had influence on whether he married or not, I don't know, but they had a joint relationship all those years. And when he died in 1996, the personal archive that she helped build, by the way, she was the secretary, had top secret clearance all the way through. Oh my goodness gracious, she put together this archive, and she's the one who did it. It was her responsibility. So there were 568 photos. Each 3-ring binder was one of the missions. It covers the Mercury program, the first program, followed by the Gemini program, and finally the Apollo program. I bought the entire collection, 568 photos. Now, folks, authenticity is what I have to do. So a lot of times I'll throw extraneous facts in there just to give you a little bit of flavor of what's going on. You might wonder about the authenticity of this work. And I'll tell you this, and not to do anything other than to show you that this is one of the methods that I use to authenticate. I sold 230 of those 568 photos at heritage auctions, and you can find them online there. Under Space Photographs, just put in Simpkinson Archive, and under the Simpkinson Archive, you will find 230 photos, and these are excellent photos. Here's how good they are. They sold for $80,000.
Wow.
So this is not it's not an obscure group of photographs. I've got documents. He was.
So let's talk about
yeah.
let's talk about your book, The Simpkinson UFO.
Yeah.
So let me just see if I can guess the. I have a feedback here. I think it's from your thing. Anyway, I hope it's not on the recording because that'll be annoying. Okay. So in the Simpkinson book, you have pictures of UFOs, right?
Oh, yes. And that's the one you need to bring up. The lithograph that was discovered in the back of the Gemini 11 binder was a 6 by 9 inch lithograph. And what it depicts is what you see on the cover. This on the cover of the original book, that is the actual lithograph that I discovered and that shocked the daylights out of me. I had to catalog all 568 of those photos in order to sell them, and in doing so, that is actually what was in the binder. And if you bring up the image that I sent to you and you look closely, you will see it's inarguably a lenticular flying saucer. And it's just unbelievable how it cannot be mistaken for anything else. And that's the value of this investigation. Everybody's been screaming for evidence, and they release things from Washington, D.C., and you get blurry images of orbs and things that can't be identified. This is a document that I'm in the process of trying to show people can be verified and will be verified if I'm fortunate enough to see this through. And I let the image speak for itself. So when you put the image up, try to zoom in on that UFO. Kids, that's what you're looking at. That's why this is so controversial. No, everybody complains, well, we want to see a picture. Where's the picture? Kids, there you go. That's a NASA document, and it's an unmistakable flying saucer. And I use the words I grew up with because, I'm just not going to mince words. It's a flying saucer. Now, you look on the document itself is a half-tone lithograph, and that was not understandable. When I started this investigation 3 years ago, I was working with the finest UFO reporters and scientists at that time, and what was not even, it was before AI, and so research was very long and tedious. No one even knew what these terminologies mean, and we couldn't understand what it was. It had been passed off to experts. And by the way, the first book, the last portion of the first book, has the actual reports of 5 scientists that I had help, and each of them investigated that lithograph to help me authenticate it. Remember, it's a beautiful document. When you look at that UFO, you say, oh, that looks fake, that looks fake. Babies, this is the truth. It looks fake because sometimes a reality is more remarkable than imagination. If a kid was going to draw a UFO, he would make all those portholes on the side of it look exactly equal and not irregular. Well, if you look at this UFO closely, you'll see it's irregular and what you're looking at. And I don't know the functioning, but you notice the portholes are uneven and they're showing different lights and stuff like that. That's because you're looking at an actual UFO in its energy phase doing something. I can't tell you what it is, whether it's outgassing heat or whether it's some kind of plasma thrust drive. I can't tell you that, but the reason it looks irregular is because it's actually caught in the act. Now, and if you look,
Well, Ed,
yeah,
can I just interrupt for a second? Of course, this is the live portion of it that people are watching on YouTube now.
Hi guys.
But I'm going to show in a later podcast or in a later video. I will have the actual image.
Yes.
And so I want to just let people,
Okay. Yeah, for the live version, kids, I'm going to try and describe the things to you that you can't see.
But, well, I'm actually, before you describe it, I'd like to know a little bit more about the history of it. Who took the picture, and how did that picture, with all of the censorship that, you're talking about, how did that end up in one of 31 folders full of pictures? How did that not get censored?
That has been the interesting part of the investigation, is linking that picture to Scott Simpkinson. And also, just so you know, the picture is not a photograph, it's a lithograph. And everybody says, well, why is it a lithograph? A halftone lithograph hardly shows detail compared to the photos that they use for tracking Russian ships at sea that were also done on those missions, okay? But why would they put a lithograph with that in there? And why does it say unclassified at the top? Good Lord, if that were an actual NASA photograph of a UFO, certainly it would be ultra top secret and not marked unclassified. These things were not known at that time. And what I've uncovered after 3 years of investigation, and you can see it actually on today's Persian Gulf War videos, is that lithograph is a CIA sanitized briefing document. And it's done by the National Photographic Interpretive Center in Washington, D.C., which goes back to about 1957. Now, that was specifically a targeting information facility
all throughout wars, I've sold old maps from World War I where you have top secret documents that show the trenches that were done from aerial views of the old biplanes in World War I, and they're marked secret and they're classified documents. But they were able to have those actual photographs, but they transferred them to maps. And the reason that they did was you can back engineer from photographs a lot of things that would be contrary to what you wanted the enemy to know. Just like today. Today, when you see those Persian Gulf War images on your TV news at night, you will see a missile strike on a target in the Persian Gulf. And you know what you see right at the top of that. Look at it next time it's on TV, kids. It's a sanitized briefing document. And what it makes it sanitized is it's blurry. It only shows a portion of what's available, all the airspeeds and aperture settings and wind information that is not visible there, but would be visible on the other actual film footage that they used on these FLIR cameras and stuff. All of that is missing. And the reason is generals, congressmen, people in power have got to be able to have a method of viewing what the military needs them to know so that they can understand the depth of what they're looking at without being able to have that image back engineered. Mick West, one of the greatest photographic interpreters of all time, and an anti-UFO guy, he's a blessing to me. Because if you ever watch one of his videos, kids, you will see he just takes these fake videos and just tears them apart and says, this can't be happening. Here's the airspeed here. Here's the actual aperture that it was being done. He's a genius when it comes to his skill. He certainly decried my thing as a fraud. When it was sent to him by someone in Germany. I didn't even know he had it. And he said, well, this is a halftone lithograph. This isn't a photo. Well, duh, I knew that. That's my stock and trade, is buying and selling lithographs, photographs, and stuff like that. I didn't send him the information. Someone sent him. So that's why when you look it up, you might see Mick West listing it as a fraud, and that's okay. Because what he proves is you have to have sanitized briefing documents, because a smart photo analyst can back engineer all the tools you used to get that targeting information that militaries rely on. And that's what the NPIC in Washington, D.C. did. They provided a method of sanitizing important photographs. Okay, it's the National Photographic Interpretive Center. And by sanitizing it, one of the methods they used way back, starting in 1957, I actually have the actual top secret, or not the actual secret document, where it lists the Heidelberg press that was used to make this exact halftone lithograph. I've got showing that that's what they used. That was wonderful, because a photograph can be back engineered because it captures minute image. But this lithograph only provides that general view. And not only that, but the actual photograph is only 5% of the photo that it comes from, which I'll get to now. But just so you know, that's why it's a lithograph and not a photograph, and that's why it says unclassified. It says unclassified because that means it's only released, a briefing document is released to the highest people, okay? They have to be able to see it, but you can't back engineer it from it. And that's what took me 3 years of pouring through every NASA actual photograph. 3 years I poured through, and guess what? It was so tough to find, because that lithograph is only 4% of the actual photograph that you can find online. And that NASA photograph is S66-54585. And you can view every NASA photograph of the earliest days on Arizona State University, March to the Moon. Just get on your website and put March to the Moon ASU, and then you will see that they have a link for every single photo that they claim that they have. And if you go to Gemini 11, punch in S66-54585, what you will see there is the big image that is on the cover of the third book, and this is the one that blew my mind, and this is what I found. What you're seeing, kids out there in Radioland, is a big, big picture. It shows the nose cone of the Gemini 11 Gemini capsule with the Earth in the bottom portion of the picture in front of it, and there in the distance of approximately 90 feet is the Agena targeting vehicle. That was their test rendezvous for orbiting two craft together in the Earth's or in the Moon's orbit, and that was the critical mission that they were accomplishing. They had to link up with that target within one orbit. If they didn't, then when they went to do that in the Moon, when the Moon craft came back up and to attach with them, if they couldn't link up in one orbit, they might not have enough fuel to get home. So the Gemini 11 mission, that was critical, and that's what you're seeing there. And what you see on the cover of the book is the big picture, S66-54585. But if you look, there's an encased photograph in dark black, and that's actually a black and white photo taken from the 12-year secret Gemini 11 mission report, and it's actually page 4. And so what that is, it's laid directly upon the photograph that you can see from S66-54585 Arizona State University March to the Moon. It lays over, and you know what? The nose cone, the Earth's orbit, the clouds, the Agena capsule, they match. They don't match approximately. They don't match somewhat. They match exactly. There's no AI involved there. It's just laying one photo on the other. And now, this is the cover of the third book, so you can go to Amazon and look at it and look for yourself. And you look way down here in the lower right corner, you'll see the Simpkinson UFO lithograph, again, laid directly on top, no manipulation, just laid scale, and you'll see a 3-lobe cloud structure of great intricacy, and you know what? It matches exactly. So it took 3 years of going through the field, and you can see that's what a sanitized document is supposed to do. You can't backtrack it to the actual photo. So that was the trickiness of it. And not only that, the very wording of it yourself, a strange object as seen during the Gemini 11 mission. I uncovered the actual 1969 National Photographic Interpretive Center handbook for how they used specific terms like that. You and I would have said flying saucer in orbit of the Earth, right? Or something along those lines. They had their own vocabulary that I use extensively to do my Freedom of Information Act request, and they use their own vocabulary. It's all meant to obscure. It's spycraft. It's the matter of not being able to easily trace information because nuclear war is right in threat in our world's operations. So, that is a dramatic document. Check out the book cover and check out, I've given some to Matt here. Check Matt's YouTube videos. I've given Matt a plethora of images, and I will share whatever he wants. I have over 16,000 frames of film that was never released before from the National Archives that I purchased myself. I paid a lot of money for this stuff. In the first book, I told you there were 5 scientists that did a report on it. Not only were there 5 scientists that did a report to authenticate that the actual lithograph itself was traceable to 1966, I paid $5,000 to Microtrace Incorporated in Chicago, Illinois, who does such amazing things as paper analysis for multi-million-dollar lawsuits, and they work for Scotland Yard, okay? They are just a powerhouse of forensic examination of paper. That was one of the first things I did in authenticating, because I said, this is unbelievable, this is remarkable. Anyone who looks at it sees this as a flying saucer. My God, I've got to authenticate that this actually came from 1966. So in the back of the very first book, in the scientific section, is the Microsoft report. And just to show you, there's some of the photos that you see of the flying saucer through the various color grade filters that they use to analyze it. And the page, the report is there in its entirety. It's 80 pages of forensic examination, and the conclusion is that it's consistent with 1966. So that was that was actually the second thing I did. The first thing I did was I looked and I said, my God, if I had looked out the window, and I don't care how well trained I may have been by NASA, and of course these guys are military trained and very brilliant scientists in their own right. If I had looked out my window and seen something like that, I couldn't help but say something, okay? And actually in my documents I have the National Reconnaissance Office document telling NASA, head of NASA, that yes, we realize they have to say something, but, and I have the actual one, everyone's always supposition that you have it too. It says, but they are not to go into detail. We understand they have to describe what they're saying, but they're not to go into depth detail. And so I was right. They do say things. So I went through the 12-year secret, and all these documents were secret from 12 years. This mission was done in 1966, and you can look up, and I've got everything in the book too. Every document is shown in the book. Don't believe me, folks. I am not here to be believed. I don't believe other people. I find it is not fruitful to believe 100% of what you're told. Investigate for yourself, and that's why I said don't believe Ed Wilson, okay? I'm very, very much convinced that I think this is the real McCoy. But don't believe me, and I'll never ask you to believe me. Believe my documents, and I've got hundreds, and I've got images. As I said, over 16,000 frames of film from the the D15 experiment, which of course are available, and of course they will be available to Matt too. So I suggest you get in touch with Matt to verify these amazing photos. And I've already sent him some of the amazing photos. For instance, the blue saucer, I'm pretty sure Matt will bring it up. That comes from the D15 experiment. What I found out was in about 54 hours, 32 minutes into the flight, in the voice transcripts that were secret for 12 years, there's a conversation that starts out between the two astronauts in the Gemini capsule after they had just completed their artificial gravity experiment and they untethered from that craft. And that's what you see on that photograph. In that photograph, you'll see the Agena capsule with a long, long 90-foot umbilical cord untethered and floating in space. And that kind of says what time it is. But what you read there at those moments is two astronauts talking to each other. And I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here, but you can read it for yourself because they are in the book. And in fact, I think I included this portion highlighted in yellow, so Matt will bring it up for you. It more or less says this. Hey, did something just go by your window out there? And the other astronaut replies, yes, it did. And then there's a little bit of garbled conversation between them, which kind of sounds like excited talk, but not well recorded. You can see some of, and within a minute of them saying, yes, I saw that, you hear Mission Control come on the line, and Mission Control says, Gemini 11, can you give me the reading from your, what's it called? It's called the S5. From your S5, it's in the lower left corner. What's the reading on that? They said yes, in the lower left corner. They looked down, they said, 0 amps, 0 voltage. So that's within 1 minute of them seeing that UFO fly by them, or not a UFO. They saw something fly by their window, and they commented on it. And within 1 minute, NASA says, what's your reading on the S5? Well, I didn't know. I had to spend about five full readings of the 3-day mission before I realized that, hey, this is something strange right here. What is that S5? Or D, I forget the number now. What is that? And it turns out it's the battery. It's one of the battery stacks. It's the 5th battery stack. And if you look at all the UFO information that's out there and the eyewitness reports and the testimony, and then this is just incidental, just one of the things, but this is documented what they said, and it says 0 amps, 0 voltage, and it is one of the cells of the battery, and as soon as that UFO flew over, that battery went dead. And when you look at UFO stories out there, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Even every movie out there will have a UFO fly over, and the car battery will die, won't it? How interesting.
Well, I've actually seen it. I've seen
Well, have you?
and I've been out on a number of.
You're in a beautiful place to see these things. I'm so envious.
Yeah, but I mean, this, you're preaching the choir. This happens all the time. So I
Good.
understand that perfectly, but can I ask a couple questions
Sure, let's go with it.
about
Oh, but anyway,
okay.
no, wait one more second because I just want to complete that. That's where I went. That's how little I knew, and I found that. And there are three more instances of them sighting strange things out there, and basically, they see the UFO, the battery goes dead, and then this is the final part. Then there is a 6 minute gap in the voice transmissions right after all that occurred. Now, certainly with the battery going dead, there would be some discussions, don't you think? I do, anyways. Again, that's inference, but it's documented a 6 minute gap. There, I just wanted to get that in.
Okay. All right. So let's just backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
I'm not sure people are going to understand what a lithograph is. So let me just throw this out there and
Yeah.
you can just, so the astronauts, they took the bigger picture.
Yes.
And then in the corner of that picture is this little object that's not really obvious. And your attention is going to be focused on the mission. So you're looking at this. But down here is this object, and that ended up in the lithograph. So can you kind of so that's where it came from. Explain how it would have who would have made that into a lithograph?
Excellent. The people that made that into a lithograph was
And what
actually.
is a lithograph?
Yeah. First of all, a lithograph is something that we commonly see every day. It's still used. It was originally the combination of two Greek words, litho for stone and graph for drawing. So stone drawing. And back in about 1700, they used to carve stones, and that's how they did engravings. They would take a smooth limestone, carve an image on it, then put ink over it, and press the paper on the ink. And oh my God, that was the first method of mass producing images specifically. So that's where lithograph comes from. Now, in modern day use, lithographs are actually what your computer uses, okay? That jet printing is generally printing, most of the time, a lithograph image, and it will use like three colors, the three primary colors, and it will do a little circular dot. That's what I do in research all my time for authenticating documents, because famous documents are always copied, okay? And usually just by putting a magnifying glass up to the image that you're looking at, you can see the actual dots used to make a lithograph, telling you it's not the original, it's a copy. So a lithograph is one of the first mass production images, your modern copier machine, basically. So the reason it's used is because it's cheap. You don't have to have an artist redraw it all the time. But with photographs, it's also cheap because you can send an image just using the dots, okay? And it's called a halftone lithograph, meaning black and white. And the various shading of the circle that makes up the image of the dots, it makes it not very accurate. It's not something that you can take a magnifying glass up and see all the details. But it presents enough of an image that a newspaper can run a story. And there you go, a nice cheap method of showing a car accident on the scene. Those are lithographs, okay? And this is what was used in 1957 by the National Photographic Interpretive Center. And the reason they use it is because an actual photograph, and I have the documents we'll get into later showing that they degraded them, because an actual photograph taken from 165 miles in space of the Earth's surface will be able to actually show a 20-foot bar at Holloman Air Force Base. That Gemini photo from the Gemini 5, it was shocking to them, because at that depth of detail, that amount of accuracy, an enemy could take the photograph released by NASA and make a perfect ICBM target image, okay? So these are military secrets that need to be ensured won't go out there. And that's what this whole process was about. The MPIC was to provide sanitize. Sanitize means you take the accuracy away, so you can't back engineer it. So they can't use that photograph for a really good ICBM target image, right? So they can't tell what kind of frame you were, or what kind of a lens you were using to capture that kind of accuracy of a frame. These are the information that militaries don't want to share, and that's why that whole MPIC was set up to sanitize these documents so that the people in power could see them without the risk of that lithograph being useful as a back engineering tool. So that took years of research. I've got all the documents and all the books to show you that that's exactly what they did. So that's what the lithograph is. That's why it was made, because there is a chain of command in these NASA photographs that I have uncovered in the secret documents that Matt has in his possession. He has the actual, and they're online, and Matt will be able to confirm for you these are actual documents that come from Freedom of Information Acts that are there that you yourself can get on the computer and read. And all the links are in my books. Like I said, I do not want you to believe Ed Wilson. That's not my modus operandi. I want you to believe my documents, and Matt has them, and you need to follow up with Matt and make sure that you get the links that he has to show you these are real. But getting back to what's going on here, and there's a whole history of the National Photographic Interpretive Center. That's part of the first book and the second book, and it leads to approximately that first conversation in space where they have the 6-minute gap and they see something out the window. That was right at the start of a mission called the D-15 experiment. It was the D-15 experiment was a night vision experiment, and it was the very first television camera in space in 1966. They called it an orthicon tube. It rested back behind the seats in the modular portion of the space capsule, and what would happen was, it was for this reason. When you're in space and you're trying to track a target, let's say a Soviet aircraft carrier that you want to track, okay? When you're trying to do that, you have to realize that each orbit in space at those low altitudes of 185 miles approximately takes 90 minutes. And because it's an equatorial orbit, you spend 45 minutes in daylight and you spend 45 minutes in night. Now, if you're a NASA astronaut and you're trying to locate some small target like an aircraft carrier from 165 miles, that's quite a proposition that you have to fulfill, and you're going to need an acuity of vision if it's going to be successful. Well, guess what? The human eye takes approximately 20 minutes to obtain its full night scene vision. It takes 20 minutes from daylight before you have your full capability to use the rods and cones to see. Now, that makes sense why this night vision television camera experiment was important to them, because with the camera, they no longer have to waste 20 minutes of their night vision to track an important military target. They can track it by looking at the TV screen. And that's what this was. It was the RCA D15 camera. It was in the back of the capsule. And when they finished unhooking from that Agena capsule, right when they're talking about, did you see that fly over here? That was the exact instant that they were supposed to activate the D15 camera. It was the RCA camera that operated at 6 frames per second, and it was like a little radar screen that one of the astronauts held in his lap and put his heads down. If you ever worked on a radar screen and drove a boat at nights, I worked in the Gulf of Mexico, we would put our head in, and it was like a little goggles thing that we would enclose our head in there, and it blocked out all other light, and you would pilot the boat directly from the radar screen. The radar screen brought everything up. Well, this was a television camera. Now, this was a very primitive time, and we weren't able to beam these signals directly back to mission control, so they had to have an actual film footage camera, the D15, 6 frames per second, a 16 millimeter camera. Now, that camera was not running the whole time. They had a series of experiments that they did and a series of targets that they wanted, but the guys in the engineering department back on the ground were not able to see that. So they provided on that little radar screen that he was looking through a button. And his instructions were, well, number one, he had specific targets that they made him push the button, and that would activate the D15 camera. And so they had those targets, but he also had specific instructions that said, if there's anything you don't understand and you see it, press the button, and we'll have the actual film footage that we can look at it too, and maybe determine what it is that you saw. So he had that in his hand, and that's what he did with the D15 experiment. And I have the 16,000 frames of film that I got from the National Archives and paid to have it reproduced by Color Lab, who is one of the only 3 archivally approved photo laboratories that the National Archives is allowed to use. And it's the oldest one. That's why I went with it. The others are kind of newer businesses that they were trying to share the business for equal opportunity purposes, etc. And the engineer there, who are the photographic professor, he worked at George Washington University, told me that in his records, it was interesting because I was the first person in their records to request that film. And so Matt will have access to all 16,000 frames, and that's where those UFO images that Matt has shown you and has access to come from. So there are 16,000 frames of film there. And just for the here on the back of book number 2, book number 2 is basically,
Ed,
yeah, it
we're
shows
gonna-
UFOs that come from that film footage. And for instance, right there, you can see my finger, that's called the blue saucer. I know Matt has that in his inventory. He'll bring it up to you. And that's frame number 15,000, and I think it's like 194. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but kids, it sure looks like a flying saucer with lights emitted from it from the D15 experiment.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it just we're coming up on an hour now, and
Oh my goodness! Well then, I think it's important that I'm just going to go ahead and rip through this because it is the most important part of our presentation here. Oh, look at me! I see. I've got the automatic camera on. That's why you're only seeing my head. Okay.
Well, that's a nice looking lady back there, whoever that is.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's what my home looks like as an auction goer. I love paper and stuff like that. She is a very pretty lady. I love that. About 19th century, I think. What Matt has and what he will show to you is this is the Senate briefing document. I just returned last month, June 26th. They had the what was it called? Disclosure 2026 forum in Washington, D.C., in the Kennedy Caucus Room of the Senate Office Building, the Russell Senate Office Building. I went there and stayed for a week. I presented this information to 2 senators, well, 2 of their aides, and then 4 of the aides for the House Oversight Committee that does all the UFO investigations. And I actually had a chance to present it personally to Congressman Burleson, who is one of the major players. When you see those UFO hearings broadcast on television, Burleson is one of the greatest advocates of releasing this information, and he's bright. I gave him this little document and read to him what I'm going to read to you now, and his eyes got big and wide, and he immediately grasped the importance of what I told to him. He turned to his aide, who I'd spoken to the day before. These guys don't have time for this. My God, they're trying to run a country. They don't have time for little UFO podcasters like me. But he did have time, and you can see the image of me holding it up as as we're together there in Washington. And this is what I read to him. He turned to his aide and he said, "We do have this, don't we?" And his aide said, "Yes, we have it, sir." He said, "Good." So that was the amount of time that I had to present to him, was to read this document here. And this is what I have discovered this year. It's the gist of the 3rd book. The 3rd book says that this sanitized briefing document is a real thing. And everybody wonders, well, how come we don't see that photograph S6545585? Because the original film was whisked away and NASA never had it, and that's the purpose of the third book. NASA was left out as a red herring. When the senators questioned him, well, you've been in space for all these years. Where are the UFO photos everyone's talking about? And the NASA guy puts his hand on the Bible and raises his other hand up in the air and swears under testimony to tell the truth and so whole truth and nothing but the truth. He swears, we don't have any. He's not lying, kids, and this proves why. This is a top secret National Reconnaissance Office document. It's NASA film intercepted. Astronaut Gordon Cooper threatened fist fight as images were seized, downgraded, and never returned. So newly analyzed top secret air intelligence and NASA-related memorandum document a little-known Cold War custody chain in which exposed Gemini mission photography came under intelligence community control before entering the public record. For nearly 70 years, researchers have debated what NASA photographs show. Official NASA congressional testimony has consistently maintained that NASA possessed no UFO photographs. Now, these documents suggest a different explanation. According to the documentary chain, NASA did not have the final custody of all Gemini mission imagery. Instead, exposed film appears to have entered an intelligence-controlled processing and interpretation pipeline before normal archival distribution. And generations of researchers have attempted to identify anomalies in NASA photographs. These newly examined records raise an additional question. Were some photographs withheld, downgraded, or released only through lower resolution derivative products? And the answer is here in these three documents that Matt is going to put up, and I know he will show these to you in his podcast, so get back to his podcast. The core evidence, three documents. Top secret National Reconnaissance Office Directive, August 19th, 1960, from Brockway McMillan, head of the National Reconnaissance Office, confirming the intelligence authority over space-based imagery. And then that's the first document. The second one is documentation of film interception at the aircraft carrier recovery stage, where angry astronaut Gordon Cooper threatens a fistfight. And finally, for years I've searched trying to get releases of Simpkinson in this chain, and it's this, a direct internal response from Scott Simpkinson, NACA's original Space Task Group chief engineer and one of NASA's founding engineers, questioning why mission film was withheld. And these are the actual excerpts. I'll read these to you now. Matt will show them actually to you, so you make sure you get back to his YouTube video because you will see for yourself these three documents. The three-page top secret memorandum from the National Reconnaissance Office director is to Robert Siemens. And Robert Siemens was the director of NASA in Washington, D.C., which is different from mission control. And he starts it with this question. I question whether, he says, all Gemini acquired photography, both NASA and Department of Defense sponsored, is processed at the Manned Spacecraft Center Photographic Laboratory in Houston. That's what everybody believes. That was it. NASA was supposed to be a civilian organization. Supposed to be civilian. They were supposed to process the film at their laboratory. That's what he says, and everyone believes it today. But I question whether either of these delegations is appropriate to matters of potential national and international concern. In the Washington area, the National Photographic Interpretive Center has unique capability for both quality processing and interpretation of our photographs. I believe it will be to our mutual benefit to transfer responsibility for processing, orientation, and interpretation of future Gemini similar photographs from Mission Control Center to the National Photographic Interpretive Center, which I've been mentioning to you. And now here is the important thing, and I want you to remember the name that Brockway McMillan says right here. As a suggestion, it may be feasible for Colonel Sweet of your security staff to arrange pickup and delivery of the film. I would make arrangements for release of Department of Defense material to him or his representative on the carrier. Boys and girls, kids, in case you don't remember how we did it back then, the space capsule would arrive from space on a parachute, plummet into the ocean, and then a helicopter would retrieve it, bring it up onto the deck of an aircraft carrier. That's what they're talking about here. This is the Gemini 5 mission with Gordon Cooper as the commander of that module, and that is what he suggests is that he's telling them, I'm going to send Colonel Sweet to the aircraft carrier to pick up the film. But you say, these things are all compartmentalized. We can't prove it, but that's what this one is. Gordon Cooper's response. Following a review meeting, the memorandum records, Gordon Cooper, he stated, this is quotes, he stated that he was damned unhappy with the arrangements, and had he known that Colonel Sweet was picking up all the film, he would have had a fist fight on his hands aboard the carrier, because he damn sure wouldn't have taken the NASA film. Boys and girls, I don't know how much more you need to understand that is the confirming bullet that NASA had its film intercepted right at the aircraft carrier. And then finally, all these years, Scott Simpkinson, who was in charge of the Gemini missions, says, Colonel McKee received a call indicating that Mr. Simpkinson was quite upset after having learned that all the film was not turned over to Mr. Gammon the night before. Colonel McKee asked Mr. Simpkinson in to meet with him and me. This gent was quite upset. Quieting his concern took quite some doing. That places Scott Simpkinson directly in the line of authority at Mission Control, saying, where is our film? So, boys and girls, that's the third book.
Okay, Ed, that's thank you for bringing that full circle. We went from the not where I wanted this to go, but you did a good job of, you've got your photograph, and then the idea was when we started off that why are there no photographs from NASA? And you pretty much made a point of it. I mean, I'm sorry that there's a lot of things that I really would have liked to cover in more detail, but and that I'm sure our listeners are very interested in what you're talking about. So I will give links to your books, and I think this has been great. I just apologize. I didn't get to ask any questions, but I think you understand the point here is that people don't get to see things that NASA takes images of, because it's really actually, and people can have whatever they want. I wrote an entire book about who controls the UFOs NASA situation, and it's a certain group of people who control this country. So I think that Ed's brought some really good evidence, and really, I mean, from the very beginning, the attitude was that information is going to be locked up. Now, one thing that I wanted to debate Ed about, that I don't agree with him, is I believe that, because Ed is of the opinion that this is all to hide technology that we know about the Soviet Union, and Ed makes a very good argument that I wanted you to hear. But there's also my opinion that in 1952 there was the Washington merry-go-round with UFOs, and that was at the same time they exploded the H-bomb at the Bikini Atoll. That brought in the UFO. And so I would argue that no, the UFOs came in to look at our technology, and that they don't want people to see the UFOs. It has nothing to do with the Russians. But anyway, these are different things that I would have liked to talk about, and we can talk about this on another podcast.
Sure.
But for now, I want to keep this to 1 hour or so, and I know Ed could, as you said, go on for hours, and I would really like to cover the things that people
just so you know, this is important. I don't disagree with you. The points you brought up are excellent. My reason for not doing it and covering the Soviet Union is because I don't want to take away. All I'm presenting is documentary evidence that it was done. And I don't get into the other things just because that would detract for hours, because everybody's interested in these things. But my own sole purpose is to show that you can see an actual image of what they had, and I am trying to prove that. But no, I don't disagree with you.
So Ed, your books are available on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's
So
some,
I will have I'll have links in the description of this video. And I want to encourage you, if you're watching on YouTube, then this will come out in an edited version with
cool.
all of Ed's books and materials. And when you see this picture that shows up in the lithograph, you really get the idea. This is the inspiration for the battle cruiser in Star Wars. That's exactly what that thing looks like. So anyway, it was very interesting. I really appreciate you being on the show.
I
And
appreciate it.
man, just your work is invaluable. And just for the idea that you're the guy that came out and answered that question, where are the photos? NASA takes pictures all the time, but so you've really laid out. And and I really wanted to get into that Gordon Cooper story too.
Isn't that cool?
But yeah, but and then the suite and the disinformation and all that. But yeah, because we see that it started out in in the frontier days of space, but the cover up got better and better and better and more expensive and more elaborate over time. So I much as I hate to do this, you got any final comments? And keep it
Yes,
short.
I do. Ladies and gentlemen, and Matt, you don't even know yet. 3 days ago, I discovered a collaborating document of 17 pages that I have now sent to the representatives in Congress who have been working with me. That only happened yesterday that I sent it to them. The document I only discovered 3 days ago, 17-page, top secret BINUM clearance, which means the top secret satellite clearance from the Apollo 6. It's from 19 months after the document you have, and guess what? You will have the names of the actual gentlemen who were at the viewing tables that cut out the film, put a placeholder in it, and sent it back to NASA. You're going to have that as soon as we get done.
Great. Well, all right, Ed, I just have one final question for you.
Sure.
We've got lots of document dumps. Trump administration said we're going to come out with all this information. Are you following any of that?
Well,
Or are
actually,
you
I follow it. Of course, I am. And let me tell you what's in the very first Trump document dump that will corroborate everything that I've said in this podcast, and you can find it right here. In the very first dump, okay, there's a Apollo 17 mission image, and I actually have that entire report. They only show one image. It shows the 3 dots on it. I think it's on page 16 at the very top of the very first document dump. It says Apollo 17, and it shows an image of the lunar landscape, and there's actual Apollo photograph number. And that photo, they showed 3 dots on the horizon above the mountains taken from the surface of the moon. And the important thing is, that's the only image they show. I have the entire report. I can show you the preceding or the following image where there is a second set of 3 dots. But what I want to point out and the significance of it and how it corroborates is this. On that page 16, when you open up the Apollo 17 mission and you read that document, it says, right on the left-hand side before you go in and zoom in on the document is a segment that says this. They say, we now believe that this is an actual image. It is not photographic flares. It is not camera aberrations. We believe it is a physical object. And here, this is in quotes. You can read it on that dump, okay? And it says right there, it says, right now, we are conducting a further investigation using the original negatives. That was not done with the original negatives. And so it's been blurred. The image is blurred. And so they say right there in the dump, we've not looked at the original images. So that confirms exactly what I've told you guys. So yeah, I do read those documents.
all right? Well, Ed, thank you so much for the work that you've done
Thank
and
you.
the time you put into this. And yeah, you guys check out these books because this is the first step of I mean, people, we went into space and immediately the government said, well, there's things you don't need to know, even though this is supposed to be a public project. And that was one of the things that the astronauts were really upset about, like Gordon Cooper, was they thought it was um, a public project. And then one thing that I really wanted to discuss a little bit or remind people about Gordon Cooper was he's the guy who at Holloman Air Force Base was with a film crew and videotaped UFO landing on the base. And that videotape was confiscated. So I just wonder in Gordo's mind, if he came back from space, he says, "Oh, I've got these images. People are going to know what I saw at Holloman." And then, nope, they're not. You're not going to see anything. So funny, huh?
Actually, in my first book, I have the direct link to the YouTube video of Gordon Cooper discussing that video episode at Holloman Air Force Base, and it says explicitly what you just said. But I have it down, it's a long interview, like an hour or so, and I have it down right to the second in the book. So that's what I put in the book. I put links for you to see for yourself. Don't believe me, but right to the second in my first book. And it's on, I gave it its own chapter. I think I said Gordon Cooper's UFO experiences. You can look at it. And Gordon Cooper talks about how the interviewer asked him, well, after you turn, and he saw it with his own eyes. He took the secret film up from those guys. They told him, do not make another copy, only one. A courier will be here to get it. And he said, they didn't tell me I couldn't look at it. So he held it up to the lamp and he says, yeah, I saw the UFO landing and I saw it taking off. So he said, they didn't tell me I couldn't do that. And so the interviewer says, well, did you ever follow whatever happened to that film? And Gordon Cooper looks at him and says, in the military, you don't do that.
Yep. Well, there's so many things I wanted to talk to you about, but I believe that the 66 mission, that was Shepard and the other guy that was with him, it was the first two man. I'm not sure. I'm just saying.
The first two man was the Gemini mission.
Okay, so
Gemini
that
was
was
the two man
Shepard.
capture. The very first mission, which you will find in the book, you'll see
Well,
Scott
I know
Simpkins
that,
Shepard.
but Shepard and I can't remember the other guy, but they went out. They orbited the Earth many times, like for a week,
Oh yeah.
and then Shepard was going to come back and tell everybody, "Well, we fell in love and we're getting married." That was his big joke. But anyway, but my point is that Gordo was Air Force, Navy, and Marines are not ever going to ask questions, whereas an Air Force is more of a liberal kind of branch. So anyway, they knew that Shepard and who's the first guy that went up?
Glenn. Well, no, Shepard was the first guy. Shepard was the first man in space.
Yeah, but they're not gonna ask questions. They're not gonna make waves. And the people who did make waves didn't stay at NASA. Anyway, let's tie this off. You have any final words for our, just very briefly,
Sure.
say goodbye?
Kids, here's what I would want to get across to you. Don't believe me, believe the documents. And you've got to not believe anyone else either, okay? Do your own research. But here's the important thing. Not only do you have to make your own decisions, but you have to force yourself to be open to changing your mind once you've investigated it. I think that what I have is real, but if I find evidence that I'm wrong, I hope I have the strength to change my mind and say this is not real. And that's what we need more of in the world. You guys are the next generation out there. I won't be here forever. I'm trying to get this information out there so that one of you brighter kids will take over.
As Howard Cosell would say, inspired words from a man who knows how to wear a hat.
I love it. You're fantastic.
All right, Ed, you have a good day. And for everybody else out there listening, Remember what we always say at Encounters USA. If you're with Ed, and you're looking through alien photographs, or you're out looking for Bigfoot or Dogman, always watch your back.
Perfect. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Yep. Thank you, Ed. Thanks for being on. And we'll see you next time, okay?
That's great.
And I'll put this video will be available within the week.
Oh, that'll be cool. I look forward to
I'm
it.
not gonna pressure myself.
Oh, I can't wait to. It's those photos you have in the doc. Oh, and by the way, I'll send you the document that's coming up. It's a blockbuster. I just sent it to Congress.
Okay. All right, Ed. Will you take care?
A pleasure,
Good.
Matt.
Have
Keep
a good
in
day.
touch, and we'll see where we go.
Yep. Well, good talking to you. And let me see if I can turn this thing on.
Yeah.
So I'm still not able to turn it off. There's our recording button. End meeting. I think that's us, Ed. Stop recording.
Recording stopped.
Hooray.
And Ed meeting. All right, Ed, this is it. This is the good. See you later.
See, I can't wait to see it. Thanks, Matt, for everything, brother.
All right, we'll see you. Bye, everybody.